one legendary pitcher that will live on forever. And we told you the story of DK Moore was in Baton Rouge last weekend on an official visit, and Shea Dixon was here on Friday and had some really good news and some good tidbits on recapping that. It couldn't have gone any better for LSU from all accounts, from the people that I have spoke to inside the program, and then Shea having a lot of similar conversations in comparing notes and hearing what he had to say last Friday. I mean, it was about as successful of a visit as you can have for a big-time player that you could put forward. I think LSU felt very confident about where they stood with DK Moore if he would have left. I talked to numerous people who said, look, if he was announcing this week, it would be LSU. And they were confident in that. Now, this thing's going to get crazy. It's going to get wild, right? And I think it's already started with that, with the trip to Austin this past weekend. I'm sure it was, look, there was money discussed. And as we said, I believe that Texas is now sitting in a corner in a camp saying, we're not letting you leave. So, you just go ahead and put your number on the table and we'll make sure that you get that plus some so you don't have any weary feelings about going anywhere else. A lot what Colin Simmons did last season, because the same type of energy was generated off of Simmons' visit as was DK Moore's. The entire family came in with DK Moore. The entire family came in with Colin Simmons a year ago. LSU very much catered to the needs of the family that Colin Simmons had to have. He's got a special needs brother that meant a lot to him in recruitment. LSU stepped up, showed housing, schooling, how all of this would really work as far as the functionality of making it happen. And then you kind of think and talk about the football stuff and who's got better opportunities to play defensive line than LSU offers right now. Right? Anybody hear what Pete Jenkins had to say over the weekend at the defensive line camp? Very similar to what we said a couple of weeks ago when we were getting crushed about the personnel that LSU has. Bo Davis is the right guy. He's got to flip the room over. Anybody thinking that this is the competitive, to give you a real competitive edge with this room, listen to Pete Jenkins. You don't have to listen to us. Listen to what the guy who's been coaching it for 60 years has said. It needs a major personnel overhaul. But I digress in saying that Colin Simmons had the same feeling when he left Baton Rouge last season, right? After hearing all the ancillary parts, the stuff off the field that was all adding up, made sense, NIL deal was in place. Was it as much as Texas was offering? No. But was it good enough for a 3-year college football player to say, hey, look, man, you're not coming to college to get rich, are you? Here's financially stable opportunities for you before you go get mega millions in the pros 3 years from now, right? Do you want to make all the money now or over the course of your career? Which, I think real high-end prospects see, I'm not coming to college to get rich. I've got an opportunity to put some money in my pocket while I'm in college, some more than others, but anybody that's thinking they're going to make generational wealth, even as a top player like Colin Simmons, DK Moore, Will Campbell, take your pick, it's not how it works, right? Texas can offer some higher dollar figures and some things off the field. Have you seen the entrance of walking into their football facility for their official visits? It's stacked with Ferraris and Teslas. And it looks like a dealership, right? They've got Ferraris, butterfly doors open. They've got Tesla trucks parked for all these. It's like they're walking down a red carpet. It's like an orange carpet event as they walk into the football facility. I'm not hating. I'm just saying that's the way of the world. That's what they have to offer. LSU really can't compete with that when it comes down to it. There's not a Tesla dealership in Louisiana, much less in Baton Rouge. Right? When it comes down to they're offering this. Well, it's you probably should go. You should probably take that because we can't offer that. But you've been telling people around you and the people that have represented LSU now for almost a decade that this has been your dream school. And here we are telling you, if you're LSU, you're the centerpiece of the class. The class that features the number one player in the country, the number one running back, quarterback, and a guy like you, you're in the discussion of being the core of the class. What else could LSU extend outside of the NIL deal that all makes sense for DK Moore? They've got all of that stuff lined up. It's not as if they're underpaying him or trying to, offer him a deal that would disrespect him. There is fair market value that is now being created through NIL where people know what the asking price for a 5-star wide receiver is. Right? And LSU has set that price forward, made that deal line up. Everything checks the box. They can't offer what Texas is going to come in and say, LSU offered this, we'll double it, we'll give you a car. You in or you out? I'm still out. Okay, well, your mom gets a car too. What else? Well, I got my little brother, and he hates y'all because this kid is a legend. That's why I wanted to start this story, is because DK Moore goes to Austin this weekend. They bring the entire family over to the football facility. Everybody's horns up.
Just look at the picture.
Everybody's horns up. Look at my man on the bottom right there. About your 4 o'clock.
Little bro is not.
Little bro's still flashing the L. They got him all Texas geared up, but he's not crossing over, man. He got no shoes on. They've been letting him run around the facility all day.
He ain't happy.
He's pouting a little bit. They give him a football. They give him the all-access pass. They gave him a jersey. They gave him a sweatband. He's still flashing the L. So I'm telling you, can we have a name on this guy yet?
I don't know his name.
Should be easy to get.
Yep.
If LSU's able to flip DK Moore, his younger brother is more legendary than he is. This is the stuff that goes down with like Landon Collins' mom type stuff. I mean, this is a recruiting story that lives forever. He's my favorite Moore that exists, and I'm a huge DK fan. But I love his little brother.
You can't really draw it up too much better than that. But with DK Moore in Texas, my whole argument with him would be like, if I was recruiting him to LSU against Texas, I would it's you could put it on paper. Like, what has Texas done as far as receivers in the NFL, as far as winning awards, as far as winning meaningful games? Like, LSU is just better. Like, I don't know what more we can sell to you.
Texas doesn't want to get it. Look, I know
they don't want to get into.
I know how that's
argument.
being handled. Texas doesn't want. They don't want that discussion.
Right.
They don't want the legacy of recruiting wide receivers against LSU. That is, that's professional versus high school type stuff. This is not even a. This is not. But what they are selling is what's starting to happen under Sark. Mm-hmm. Is that Xavier Worthy goes in the first round? Is that wide receivers are starting to make some more, headlines.
I gotta find this tweet.
And he sets them into a place that they've never been. That's what they're telling him. Like, you can go to LSU, be one of the next, right? Like, these guys have been there for over a decade. You can even go back to Dwayne Bowe and, Josh Reed in the early 2000s. They've been pumping these guys out forever. And that's why DK Moore grew up thinking,
go to LSU?
That's where I want to go. Because the best wide receivers in the sport play there. And DK, they still do. The latest NFL draft, you couldn't even get outside of the top 23 picks without 2 of them going off the board.
2 LSU receivers went off the board before 1 Texas receiver did.
So, it's just, and for as much as I know LSU is pushing Biletnikoff Award winners, Heisman Trophy Award winners, hell, they're pushing Bryce Underwood.
Yeah.
If you're LSU, there's absolutely nothing more you can do to prove to DK Moore that this is the best chance for you to succeed playing football. Now, if you want to succeed playing football and make more money, then look, man, I know you're going to Texas, and that's how it has to be. But if you're LSU, you got to be thinking you got C.J. Wiley, you got the French kid from Jamie French. You've got wide receivers who are looking and staring at their phone, waiting on Cortez Hankton, Joe Sloan to call and say, you're it. You're in. Are you in? Do you want to come play wide receiver at LSU? I mean, that's not there's not too many no's you're hearing there. Right? Like, I mean, DK Moore sits in a class that's very shallow. Not a lot of guys have been offered to be the number one wide receiver in LSU's class with a quarterback in the same class and turn it down.
Yeah.
When stating, I've always wanted to go there.
Right. But, okay, so this tweet came up my timeline randomly last night. Sark versus, who was it? Tom Herman. First 39 games. Tom Herman was 24-15, 2 bowl wins, no losing seasons, 7-9 versus ranked teams, and 3-0 versus Kansas. Sark is 25-14, no bowl wins, 1 losing season, 6-9 versus ranked teams, 2-1 versus Kansas, and they both only had 1 win versus Oklahoma.
I mean,
if we're selling the Sark doing
no
this,
doubt, but
we can look at Brian Kelly's last 2 years at LSU, and he came here with a depleted roster. Texas' roster was at least semi-built.
Hey, don't think that LSU, Frank Wilson, Hankton, and the crew aren't selling that, and they're giving more. I'm telling you, the stuff coming out of last week's visit was legendary. Like, Frank Wilson has been on visits his entire life. I mean, people that we know were there these guys are seasoned recruiters. All of who we're talking to is saying, like, hey, this was a different weekend, right? Like, I mean, and it was organic. It wasn't, there was a lot of planned stuff around DK Moore, but there was a lot of stuff that happened organically, that a phone call with Odell Beckham, a FaceTime with Odell Beckham that popped up that had DK Moore walking around the restaurant as if he was he was starstruck. It's hard to make DK Moore starstruck at this point in his life. Look at the way he's treated everywhere he goes. I mean, like, that picture that he had at Texas, the same picture was taken at LSU, and the same type of treatment was presented to DK Moore and his family when he was here. I mean, they didn't walk through a door that it wasn't open for. They didn't sit in a chair that it wasn't put down for. I mean, they were treated like royalty. Right? I mean, DK Moore has a lot of respect everywhere he goes. Odell Beckham is on FaceTime with him. It looks as if he's at, it looks like he's at a Taylor Swift concert. He's a teenage girl. I mean, he's like freaking out walking around the restaurant from the people that we're talking to. Like, no way. How did this happen? Like, well, it happened because he played here. I mean, like, he wants to see you play here. There's not that many moments. I mean, a get together with the coaching staff and DK Moore and his family on I believe DK was here Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So a Friday night get together with all of the coaches and only one recruit in town. Had DK Moore's little brother thinking, hey, man, this is pretty cool stuff. And then Saturday when they're leaving in the video that they showed Moore and his family, I mean, I'm told there was not a dry eye in the room from the family. Like, everybody from the family that was there was thinking, like, what are we doing? Why are we going anywhere else? And it comes down to one thing, and what that one thing is now in recruiting is it's money. And it's always been a part of the formula, right? Like, if DK Moore was in a recruiting class of, let's throw it back 10 years, 2014, right? That's Fournette and them, right?
Yeah.
So let's say he's in that class. Don't think DK Moore's not getting paid. He's still getting money. He's still saying to their recruiters at some point, this is what it's going to cost. And those recruiters are prepared to have those conversations because that's been the way of this world forever. Right? But now it's just it's all above the table, and now you can say, hey, look, they're offering me more money. That's where I'm going. And when it becomes, a bigger piece of the formula, a bigger piece of the pie, well, there's some schools that just can't recruit when it comes to these types of tiers of prospects. And if you're a hometown team, a lot like what LSU has done since Saban unveiled the blueprint and said, this is what it is. You can't let Ed Reed, Reggie Wayne, and Raynoch Thompson leave the state if you intend to be competitive in football every year. You must get those guys every single recruiting cycle. You can't take one off. You can't let Marshall Faulk and Travis Minor leave. You can't let Warwick Dunn leave. It can't happen if you want to be. So LSU has bought into hey, don't think that the Fournette negotiation went like, we're not letting you leave. So tell me what Alabama offers and we'll double it. Or we'll whatever we have to do to make sure that the state's number one prospect does not leave, we're all in on that. I think Texas has just bought into that game, which I can't knock. Right? I mean, like, if I was at LSU, that would be my theory. Guys, there's no way we can lose the state's top prospects. And if a kid in Dallas says that it's his dream school to go to LSU and play wide receiver, well, then we need to put our foot down to the pedal and make it a very difficult decision for him to go anywhere else. Right? But if we lose to Texas or Texas A&M, they're just using the same formula that we are. I'm sure internally they're just saying, hey, guys, we're not losing DK Moore. We're not losing Colin Simmons. We're not doing this anymore. We're not letting Jamal Adams go to LSU. We're not letting Brandon LaFell go to LSU.
Craig Loston.
Take your pick. I mean, the state of Texas, the cities of Houston, Dallas, and those areas have been overly abundantly kind to LSU. For as much as the Louisiana talent has meant you've still had to cherry pick Caleb Von Chasson out of Houston. Right? I mean, take him off the 19 team. You still got to have Grant Delpit. So, I mean, that's where that's why I think, we can talk awards, we can talk Biletnikoffs, we can talk Bednareks, we can talk Thorpe Awards, we can do all of these debates. It's now that stuff has become secondary in the conversations where now the primary points are how much? What's the deal? What's the NIL deal? What do I get? Can my mom get a car? Can my little brother? I mean, look, bro, he's pissed. What are y'all going to do for him? And, you got to jump. The 9-year-old wants whatever he wants. We got to jump. We got to get it. We got to get the kid. You know what I mean? Like get him a play Tesla. Let him drive it around the facility. So, daily, we're brought to you by Go Roof, online at GEAUXroof.com. Saw the Go Roof boys yesterday celebrating Father's Day all together. Great to see all of them. That's what you get, man. A great company, great people, trustworthy, been in business for over 15 years, community-oriented. You can find them online at GEAUXroof.com. A beautiful roof every single time when you use our friends over at Go Roof. Gearing up for a very active storm season. We've been reminding you, go ahead and punch this number into your contacts list. 225-927-8300. 225-927-8300 is the phone number. That's how you get in touch with Go Roof. GEAUXroof.com. GEAUXroof.com is the website where you can find them there. You can see testimonials. You can see the all the reviews, how much people have used them, and will be back as recurring customers. If you're looking for a roofer that you can trust, give them a call. You're not outside of the service area. No matter where you think you are, they can service all of I-10 here on the South Corridor. They'll go up to the northern part of the state if you need somebody to jump up there. 225-927-8300 is the phone number. 225-927-8300 is the phone number. Go Roof, GEAUX roof.com. It's going to be brutal for DK Moore if he does not go to LSU to watch Bryce Underwood, Harlan Berry, and that offense set records 3 years from now, no matter where he is. Yeah. Knowing that all of these guys, Underwood's taking shots at him.
Yeah.
Like he has over the last couple of weeks, he's like, no, I'm committed.
I'm not going anywhere else.
With a reason. Like, I'm not going anywhere else. To me, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they're talking at one another, not really talking at us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're
talking to the 40-somethings, the 30-somethings who are covering and following the sport. They're talking to their boys. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the conversations that they probably had while committed, were all about, just ripping college football up. And now, with the potential, and it feels like, LSU's still a little outside looking in. They have more of a chance than it felt like they did, a couple of weeks ago, but it still feels like an uphill battle. We were all 17, 18 at one point in our life. It was much more difficult to let your crew down than it was to let, the coach, right? I know for at least it was for me. I mean, my boys had more input on my decision-making than a lot did. And if we were doing something all together and we were all bought into something and saying, hey, like, we're all on this course to go get this, right? Let's put this class together and let's go win. Let's go be successful. And then me be the one that says, I don't know. Like, say what? We've been talking about this now for a year. I just think that, don't underestimate the power of the peer, right? I mean, not to say that DK Moore is going to fall for peer pressure, but this is much more than peer pressure. This is a lifetime of relationships, right? I mean, think about your college people. You probably still talk to a lot of them today, or the majority of them, or some of them. And especially if you were an athlete and you shared a locker room and you shared an airplane and a bus and a hotel room and a huddle, right? I mean, those relationships go a long, long way. So, look, I'm not saying that DK Moore is going to Texas. I'm saying it's going to be an uphill climb for LSU to land him. But in the same breath, I don't know who could sell DK Moore a better deal. Right? Like, when it comes down to it. Because if we're all playing above the table, all right, DK, here's your NIL deal, man. He gave you Gordon, Raising Canes, walk-ons, all the heavy hitters. Make sure you're taken care of. I'm sure there's still even some play going on under the table with a guy like Moore. Not only are you getting the NIL deals, we'll scratch you a couple of $1,000 a month to make sure you're still happy. But on the football field, you got the number one quarterback, the number one player in the country. You got the number one running back in the country. You got an offensive line that's been recruited better than any other unit, position group in the program over the last 3 years. And you're playing at a school that, look at the draft picks the last 15 years.
Only school putting out more than Georgia.
Or Ohio State, maybe, huh?
Georgia and Ohio State. Maybe Bama's up there, too, but...
Georgia wide receivers?
No. Georgia's only had 2 wide receivers drafted in the last 5 years.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about wide receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wide receivers, it's LSU.
And
Ohio State.
That's
it.
Yep. But when you look at the top end, I mean, who's the highest paid non-quarterback right now in the NFL?
Justin Jefferson.
Who's going to break the record next year?
Jamar Chase.
Right?
Weren't you just hanging out with him?
And it looks like Malik Neighbors is on a crash course to get his in about 3 years.
Right.
And it's just that the LSU has it all, like when it comes to the pitch, but it just comes down to if he picks the money over the pitch LSU's putting out.
I mean,
you got to move on,
and it's going to happen again.
Right.
If it doesn't happen with Moore, it'll happen down the line with somebody else, somebody that you feel like, man, what do you mean? We got outbid.
Yeah.
Well, you saw. Desmond Ricks when he went to Alabama.
Yeah,
it was the guy that we thought. a dream to play for
He
LSU.
almost said
loves
"Go
LSU.
Tigers" in his.
And then 2 nights before he's gonna say LSU on commitment day,
Alabama.
it all goes towards Alabama. So
I'd love to see when it comes down to it, when the checks are cashed, when the keys have been handed over to the people, what's the difference on this stuff? Like, to a big-time player like DK Moore, how much was the second school off? Let's say he goes to Texas and he chooses Texas over LSU. How much was the difference? Right? Like, what is the true difference on a player like this? Because at some point, if you're the family, don't you have to allow the kid to make the choice?
right.
Like, don't you have to say, like, look, because, I mean, it's a dozen here, it's 12 over here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like we're missing out on the money. You know what I mean? It's like we're taken care of in both places. Right? And I believe that you're going to get to the NFL. And if you get to the NFL, all this stuff's going to quadruple.
Right.
Right? Like, all this stuff is just going to compound into a place where our grandkids are going to be taken care of. I know look, it's got to be different for somebody that I don't have those conversations. I'm not privy to be on the other side of the table where I'm being, or my son or anybody in my family is being negotiated for through NIL deals. I don't know if I wouldn't say, hey, we're just going to go to the highest bidder. Or I would say, hey, look, at the end of the day, this is all just kind of, you know, I mean, it's a lot of the same look. What's the best opportunity?
Yeah.
Right? No matter where we go, we're going to be taken care of. Right? Like, you're a high priority at any program. We got to go to the best fit, right? Well, they're saying Arch Manning. Yeah, but you're coming in with Underwood. You know? I mean, like, you want a quarterback? Here's the best. You want an offensive line? Here's arguably the best. You want a second or third wide receiver? Watch Teron Francis's film. You know, check out what Shelton Sampson's going to be in your freshman year. There's no way somebody can double team you. So, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. LSU, DK Moore. DK Moore wraps up his trip at Texas after a trip to Baton Rouge. Decision still some time away, so we'll wait and see what Moore chooses.
Well, so do you think, obviously with all the focus that they're putting on DK Moore and his recruitment, are you worried that might take away from some of the other wide receivers in this class?
I think that the people who are leading this recruitment are smart enough to understand and read, you know, the tea leaves of where they stand. And also, look, you're not selling the outhouse.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if this guy passes, then it's on to the next one.
Yeah.
And it's, hey, do you want to play wide receiver at LSU? Absolutely. I mean, like, you know, I mean, it is a proven product that for all of these players, for all of these prospects, their number one goal is to play on Sunday. Has been since they were a kid, has been since they've thought about playing professional sports. They want to get to the highest level. LSU has proven they do that better than anybody. If you don't want to play wide receiver at LSU, you better have a great backup option.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that would be my thought. So, you know, I think that Hankton, Sloan, Brad Davis, Brian Kelly, Frank Wilson, they know what it looks like.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they know they've probably talked to DK Moore in the last 10 hours since he's been back from Texas and have a clear understanding, like, hey, we're either still in it, we're totally out of it,
right,
or we're still leading this thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, they all know just by the conversation. They've probably talked to the little brother.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, tell me everything. You know, like,
Hated it.
Give me everything.
Right.
Hated it.
Right? So, I mean, they know. They know whether they should keep pursuing or they should get C.J. Wiley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he visited by himself. Like, that kind of spells it out for anybody. Like, he he came on a visit. Nobody else was visiting that weekend. So LSU went full court press just on DK Moore.
Right.
And then you look at this weekend where they had 10 to 15 prospects in. And it's like, okay, now we got to divvy up and you go here, Hankton. Blake Baker, you go here. Like, everybody was with DK Moore. Yeah. Everybody was telling him how much LSU wants him, how much LSU needs him. So it's like, yeah, they kind of did, like, show their hand in the sense of, like, how much they want him, but I'm sure they're doing the same thing with C.J. Wiley. I'm sure they did the same thing with Khalid Lockett, Jamie French. Like, they did the same thing.
Yeah.
That's just how recruiting goes.
Yeah.
Just the number one receiver in the country. Like,
absolutely. You don't give up until he is on Texas's campus.
Right. Yeah.
And then even when he's there, you got somebody playing, like, still texting.
You're talking to the little brother
the whole time.